Well, this is going to be great.
Welcome to the White House Pod. With David A.R. White.
I'm gonna finish what I started.
It's not easy, but it's simple. Welcome back. Thank you so much for being here today. We have an incredible guest. The one, the only, the incredible actress, model, superstar. You know, she's constantly running from fans and stalkers. Lilley.
Thank you so much, David. First of all, we've known each other 1,000
Now, hold on, Jen. Your applause. You got to let your applause just go on and on there for 2 seconds.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I know you're used to this, but hi, Jen.
Hi, David. I'm fact-checking you already. Sir, we've known each other 1,000 years. That is a fact because we've known each other since 2011. Actually, maybe even before that. And 2009, I don't know. Whenever PureFlix originally started.
What was your first one with PureFlix? Was it Rev Road?
Yeah, Revelation Road. And then from that, the reason I ever had dark hair ever was because you called me one day in 2011, I believe, and asked me if I would consider playing Esther. And I was like, I'm very pale and blonde and Gentile. If you'd like to trust me with that role, you may. And then we've known each other through a pandemic. And then the last fact check is, no, sir, I am not a model. You should see me in photo shoots. It's the most uncomfortable thing you've ever experienced. So,
Jen, you're always super comfortable when I'm around you. Or I'm, you totally are. That is kind of funny. I'm trying to think of how in the world do we meet you from Revelation Road? You do play Josh McManus's wife. And my daughter was your daughter who ends up getting raptured in that. I think it was 12. I think it was 12 when it came out. We probably shot it in 10 or 11.
2010?
Well, wait a second. She was born in 2010, so she couldn't have been because she's a little tyke.
She was so little.
I think she's like two, was 1 or 2. So anyway, so you did that and you were amazing. Did we just get you through an audition process? Is that how that happened? Were you new at that time? Like, had you been in LA for a while?
I was new to LA, and I do think maybe I think probably I auditioned. Yeah.
Well, I don't even remember the other than just you being amazing at it, and then you from there though. Then I think were you doing Hallmark movies at that time, in your early years, or you were on a soap opera?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Which soap?
So
do I have to fact check you? Do I need to?
Yeah. When we did Revelation Road, I was not on a soap opera, and then shortly after that, so you really kickstarted my career. After that, I booked General Hospital. I did that for a year, and then I booked the Academy Award-winning movie The Artist, and I also booked Days of Our Lives, and I did Esther right before I booked Days of Our Lives. So yeah.
The thing that I remember, I can always say about Lilley is obviously she's very beautiful, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see. By the way, if you're not on YouTube, you should definitely go to the @DavidAR White YouTube and watch this episode because you're not going to want to miss 1 second of Lilley on your screen with all kinds of incredible visuals that our team does. Yes, Dylan and his whole producing team are amazing on this. And Tony, you too, Tony from Kansas. Okay, so wait, Jen. So the thing that I remember most about you that it makes sense because you did the soap operas, but you were always so unbelievable at reading something and you had your lines instantly. Not only are you an amazing actress, but you also had that thing I was always amazed because I have to work at it, right? You could just read it and then you would, boom, you were totally into it. And Esther, of all things, right, was this massive script of all about you, your character. And you had so much biblical stuff to say in that. And you just, no problem, you just flew through it all, which is incredible. And then of course you went on a soap and then probably did 30 pages a day. How many pages a day did you guys do?
Oh my goodness. So we shoot 2 Hallmark movies a day. I'm not on soaps anymore, but I say we because once you're a veteran of soap operas, you are in there for life. We would shoot a movie by lunch. So my worst day, now this is not typical. Typical would be 32 pages a night. But my worst day, and this was every week, I had a day that was similar to this. So that is like by Friday, I couldn't do interviews when I was on the soap because I would literally be like, unless you give me a script, I don't know my name right now. But my worst day ever was 87 pages in one night of my own dialogue that I had to sput out. And I didn't know before I did soap operas, there are no teleprompters. Like you hear that there are teleprompters, you hear that there are cue cards, there are not. So it's insane.
So what's your process though? Do you have to just do you have it instantly when you read it? You have photographic memory, of course, right?
No, I so wish.
You do not? You don't? We had Ray
No.
Wise in here a bit ago, and I didn't realize this because obviously he was on soaps forever, and he has a photograph. He goes, he looks at it and he takes a picture of it, almost like that, and it is in his head, and then he that's how he. You know, we've given him so much dialogue over the years, and I didn't realize that he was on soaps forever. But do you have the same thing, or how do you do it?
I wouldn't word it like that. I would say at best partially photographic, because even studying in high school, I would kind of close my eyes during the test and be like, where is that in my notes? And then I would kind of read it back. So maybe, but
Seems like
I
it.
think this is probably your method too. You let me know. But I think most actors, like goal one is understanding what's going on. Like, what is the story? Read it to understand, read it for comprehension, and then I'll read it again for comprehension, twice, make sure like I've got the right interpretation. And then I just start saying it out loud. And then once I'm getting to memorization point, maybe by like time 5 of reading it, I will kind of see if I can do it myself without looking. And whenever I come up, I kind of go up and I'm like, I don't know what my next line is. I will, in the right-hand margin, write the keyword. And sometimes the keyword is and, because David, sometimes, and then I'll kind of go down those. And then in the left-hand margin, I will write my character's subtext. Like, what is my character actually thinking, even though the text says this? What does she actually mean? So,
Where did you get this? When you started acting, did you go to college for acting? Where did you go to school?
I went to the University of Virginia, and I ended up getting a degree in theater, but acting was like one elective that was my gateway drug. But no, it was really just a lot of stage management and producing, sound design. I have a minor in environmental science. I did not go to school for it intentionally. I did end up getting a degree. And then I think your question was,
well, how did you
basically
get here then?
how did I get?
When did you move here? How old were you?
I was fresh out of college. I was 22.
This is like 6 years ago that you did this?
Yeah, 6 years ago. Zoom filters are amazing. No, so you're very kind. Yeah, you known me since I was 5. Okay, distracting. Stop with your flattery, sir. I basically graduated early because I was already engaged to my husband at the time, and still my husband, but at the time I was already engaged to my husband, and I was like, there is no way I can plan a move to Los Angeles and a wedding at the same time. So I doubled up on my classes, got a job, put myself through summer school, did like 21 to 24 credit hours a semester, graduated early. And then for 6 months, I taught kindergarten during the day, sometimes high school. I substitute taught, long-term substitute taught, and then waited tables at night.
Is this when you're like 20? Are you like 20? Because you graduated college early. So 21, 20, what are you, 20, 21?
I was 21, and then when I moved to LA, I was 22, but I was still playing 15. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
How tall are we, Jen? Are we 5'2", 5'5"? 5'4"?
That's a really big discrepancy for a woman. That's like me being like, sorry, 5'9", 6'4". I'm like 5'2.5".
Well, I said the question, and then I was like, can people actually ask women how tall they are? And then I was like, wait a second, is that off limits? There's certain things that we all know, right, Tony, that are off limits.
I don't know. I
don't know. So if you can tell us, how tall are we?
I don't know how tall we are, but I am about 5'2". Maybe a hair taller.
Got it. Okay. Now, so we moved to LA. Wait. What was the thing then? Was the kindergarten? Is that what drove you away? You're like, I gotta go to the.
So once in college, I basically I did an open audition for a film called Loss of Life, which was later destroyed. And I booked the female lead. And when I got on set, I realized that while I'm stage fright, I am not shy around the camera. And so I got on set and was like, wow, I really enjoy people who are involved in film. I really enjoy the filmmaking process, through and through, like in every nerdy way. I'm like, oh, the editing, the sound, like I'm really into all of it. The cinematography, the lighting is amazing. So I decided I wanted to become an actress. I called my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, and I was like, look, bro, we're still friends. We could break up now, remain friends.
Is that how we call it? Is this in our relationship? Is this what we say? Is, look, bro, is this?
I did. Jason and I were friends for a couple of years before, and I called.
What does he call you? So you say, "Hey, bro, like, did you make breakfast this morning?" And then he says what back?
I don't know. Jason's a man of few words, but I called him and I said, "Listen, I really feel like I'm called to acting, and this is what I want to do. So if you don't feel like you could ever move to LA, which is fine. He's from West Virginia. I didn't want to. That's a big, rude culture shock. I said, I know I want to do this. So if you don't ever see yourself moving to LA, we should just probably break up now while we can remain friends." And he was just like, if that's what the Lord wants you to do, then that's what we'll do. And I was like, okay. So I prepped for the world of acting. And
did you both move out here together, or did you?
Yeah, we were married. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you were married when you came out. Okay,
mm-hmm.
So you got married over there.
Mm-hmm.
In Virginia. So sidebar. How long have you been a Christian? Are you
I've been a Christian since I was 9, so 31 years.
Oh, okay. Mom and dad Christians? Did you
Yes.
grow up in a Christian home?
I mean, yeah, I did. I grew up in a Catholic home, and I'm not saying Catholic's not Christian, but I'm just saying for me personally, when I was in the Catholic Church, I didn't like it, and I didn't believe in God. Even as a kid, I just remember being really cynical. And then,
were both your parents Catholic?
Yes. And
Okay.
then what happened was, we're from like a small town called Roanoke, Virginia, and it's not the Lost Colony. And there were only 2 parishes at the time that were Catholic. And our priest moved away to another parish in Virginia Beach, which is 5 hours away. And so the new priest who came in, I remember at one parish, they were speaking about limbo. And then so we visited the other parish, and at that other parish, they were preaching purgatory.
Wait, when you say limbo, is limbo like the
Yeah.
thing, when you put the pole up and you're like going underneath it? Is that the...
Yeah, right, exactly. No, so Catholics, not all Catholics. I do want to say a caveat. I really am not well versed enough to know whether this is something that all Catholics believe, because it was not something that
Is it
my
like
parents
purgatory? Is that what we're talking about?
So purgatory is what one was preaching, which is like burning off your sins, which is totally not biblical, because
That's like Lost, Tony, for the record. That's the whole series of Lost. It's purgatory.
Yeah, I mean, yes, and it's
Except it was pretty there.
Jesus, like our righteousness is filthy rags. That's what the Bible says. Like there is nothing that we can ever do that is good enough to deserve heaven or deserve God's favor or God's grace. It's only because of Jesus and his blood and his sacrifice, that we can have a right standing and relationship with God. And so purgatory is just, not biblical in any sense of the word. And then limbo is the idea that when a baby dies, or is aborted, that baby goes not to heaven or not to hell because it didn't make the choice. It just goes to limbo. And it's like, that's also not biblical.
Yeah, that's a little, wow, okay.
So my parents they basically were like, well, what are we going to do now? And then long story short, their optometrist invited them to what was it called? Episcopalian church.
Right.
And they were like, that's Catholic light. And we went, and it was like a spirit-filled Episcopalian church. So I was
Catholic
like, oh my
light.
gosh,
That's funny.
clapping their hands and, raising their hands, and like there's a drummer, and I went to their Sunday school and I learned about Elijah, and I just was so pumped that somebody in the Old Testament before Jesus and outside of the 12 disciples and Moses had Holy Spirit. And so I read my whole Bible at 9, and I've just been, my nickname was Jen for Jesus. Like I've been on fire ever since.
Aw. What are we drinking there? By the way, the YouTube audience wants to know. They're writing comments right now. They just want to know what's going on there.
If they want to give me an endorsement deal, I'm almost always drinking Vita Coco.
Like all day long?
I mean, that and black coffee.
Do we ever have water?
I try to have water, but it's just not that exciting. And I don't have time with like 4 young kids and businesses
Well, we
to.
got to get to that. I mean, that's a whole other thing. I knew Jen, she didn't have any kids. Now she has 4. That's crazy. All right, so you come to LA, you do. What's your first audition? Like, how did you get? Are you still with the same management, by the way?
I'm
Manager?
not with the same management. I've never had a manager.
Like, who
I
did
didn't
you
have a
go
manager
with?
for I'm sorry?
Sorry, did you get an agent, manager? Like, how does for all the audience out there, how does someone break into the film industry and become as successful as Jen Lilley? Jen
I
Jesus
cannot.
Lilley.
I can tell you it's hard work and tenacity, that's for sure.
And
Because
talent.
if I can do it, anybody can do it. But I don't even know what the system would be now because we are archaically old, David. Back in our day,
Jen, you're
YouTube wasn't
27
a
years
thing
old,
yet.
for crying out loud.
I know, but YouTube wasn't a thing when I was 3,
That's true.
And so you could not Taft-Hartley yourself. And there weren't all these distribution channels. And so you had to do background or, get Taft-Hartley'd. And so I moved out during the writer's strike of 2007, which was unbelievably brutal because as much as it was exciting to be a non-union actor, SAG put out, SAG is the actors union for anybody that's listening. They put out a memo that was basically like, if you are non-union and you ever want to be union ever, then you will be a scab forever if you work as a non-union actor during this time. And I was like, okay, so I did background work because there were no jobs and I got headshots. I got myself an agent and
What was your favorite background work thing that you did?
So I got Taft-Hartley'd by Clint Eastwood. I did
Cool is
The
that?
Changeling, and Clint Eastwood picked me out of a crowd of 2,000 people. And he
Wow.
made me one of Angelina Jolie's co-stars. And I had a crying scene and everything. Like he made me featured background, gave me my golden ticket to join SAG. I like had lunch with her and Clint Eastwood. And she was really, really nice. This was like when the affair was going on, and I really wanted to hate her, but she was incredibly kind.
Affair
Like,
with Brad Pitt? Is that the affair that we're talking about?
yeah.
Oh, got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was like during that time. And went to set.
Angelina
I
Jolie
did not-
on the set of. Did Brad come to the set
Changeling.
of the chain?
Huh?
Chain. I can't even. I still can't
The
pronounce that title.
Changeling. It was such a good movie, but I went
Yeah.
to go see
Well,
it.
Jen
and,
Lilley was in that.
Yes,
And
but
Angelina
the back of my
Jolie.
head was in it. My close-up got cut, but it didn't matter because that was how I got into SAG. And it was just so cool because I got to hang out with like her and Clint Eastwood for a couple weeks. And then because I did that movie and we had to learn how to do all of our hair because we were backgrounds. So we had to come to set like with our hair and makeup prepped. And they gave us like whole courses on this is how you have to roll your hair. This is how you have to do your makeup.
Because
So
that movie takes place in when?
the 1920s.
The 20s. Okay.
So because I did that movie, listen to this is like how God orders your steps. I did that movie and then I took acting classes some, but whenever I would take acting classes, I would stop booking because I'm such a obnoxiously good student. Like I was one of those people that was always on the front row, always had 30 pencils, and was such a little brown noser. And, I have an accidental degree in science. Like I'm way zealous when it comes to academics. It's really embarrassing and whatever. But
Hence the
point
photographic memory.
yeah. Yeah. So anyway, whenever I would take acting classes, you could tell who I was studying under because I would stop being authentic and I would be more of like their student robot. So instead, what I would do is I would watch director commentary and old videos and make notes in a notebook of like, why was this performance riveting? And what is this actor's through line? Like, what does this actor do in every movie that's kind of their signature move? And so when the casting came out for The Artist, which was nominated for 10 Academy Awards and won 5, including Best Picture, I called up my agent and I said, listen,
Who was your agent at this point?
My second agent was the one that I called about this role.
Okay,
and I
got it.
said, listen, there's a breakdown coming out that came out for this movie called The Artist. And I don't know anyone on this call sheet. Like, I don't know the director. They were all French, And I said, but here's what I know. If you get me an appointment, I will book that because I just did the 1920s and they wanted you to come in character. I knew how to do my hair. I knew how to do my makeup. And furthermore, I had just finished a study on Charlie Chaplin and Clara Bow. I was like, there is nobody that knows the 1920s and knows silent film better than me. Get me in the room and I'll book it. So I went into the room. I went in for the role of Missy Pyle, ended up booking. And no joke, David, this is like the history of my life. I got into the audition and they were like, we have no idea what role you should play because you look like you're, a teenager, so you can't play the love interest. But not the love interest, his wife, Missy Pyle's character. But we're going to write you in. So they wrote me into the movie and I got to go to all the parties and all the crazy things. And yeah, it was amazing.
Did you come into the audition with your hair in 1920s?
Yeah.
So you,
Oh,
of course
yeah.
you did. Of course Jen did. See, that's what separates you, though, from most actors, I think, is that commitment, that level of commitment.
That level of nerdiness.
With all your pencils and everything. I wish I could see your desk right now. Does it have like 32 pencils?
It does not, but I have like calendars over here. I have all sorts of stuff. I will tell you that my husband, Jason, he describes me this way. And I'm like, I actually consider this a compliment. He goes, my wife is smart. She's not the smartest person in the room, but she will outwork the smartest person in the room.
I would concur with Jason on that. That's hilarious.
Like, I will work harder than you. I will just not sleep for a week until I find the answer.
So we're a perfectionist. Were we the oldest child in our family or the youngest?
I was
or
not
only?
the oldest child, but my sibling, I was the second oldest. I was the oldest girl, and my siblings still to this day are like, you love playing mom. And I'm like,
How many brothers and sisters we have?
I'm one of four.
And we're in what rank? Number 2, number 3?
I'm number 2, first girl.
Okay.
So it goes older brother,
Okay.
me, younger sister, younger brother.
Are you more of a perfectionist than your older brother?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
You win out of all your family. That's hilarious.
My sister's pretty, well, yeah, my little sister and brother are also perfectionists, but yeah.
What do your parents do? Are they in the entertainment industry?
No, they're sane. My dad, they're retired now, but my dad was a
I didn't really
judge.
think they were over there in Virginia, but
I didn't know anybody when I moved to LA. No. You think they're in the entertainment industry in Roanoke, Virginia? No, my dad was a judge and my mom was a director of she was a marketing director for Crisis Pregnancy Center.
okay.
So for, unwanted pregnancies.
All right, let's okay, so you do this big movie now. Is that what sets you up for had you done Revelation Road at that point, or is this pre or post that?
I had done Revelation Road.
Oh, okay, that was okay. So this is around the time we go into the soap operas, right? Do you go straight into the soap operas?
Mm-hmm. I booked General Hospital after I'd already done The Artist.
Now, because of The Artist, did you all of a sudden just start auditioning for everything? Did they just start throwing scripts at you, going, "Oh my gosh, this girl, the way she comes in with her hair, we gotta let her read. She'll be prepared one way or the other."
I ended up having a lot of auditions in that time, and I ended up testing for a bunch of things. And then I did General Hospital, and I was kind of locked into that for a while. So,
was it your dream? Did you have a dream to go on soaps?
No. Listen, even when I moved to LA, I used to take casting director workshops, which I know people are kind of like, it's pay to play. And I'm like, listen, almost every role I ever booked was from a casting director workshop.
Yeah.
Mine is David A.R. White's first project with me. I love a casting director workshop, and you just have to be smart about it. Oh my gosh, I've forgotten the question. Mom brain just.
Well, I'll tell you something about casting director workshops, which is interesting because do you remember Billy DeMotta, who cast almost all of our early films all the way through The God's Not Deads? Yeah. Well, he was the guy that for whatever reason was so adamant against casting workshops. And so, he literally for years, like 10, 15 years, because he was very old school. I mean, he had done Predator all the way back, in the day, where casting directors used to take like, generals and that thing. So he had a burr in his spine, whatever. I don't even know. What's the saying?
Yeah.
And so what is it? A burr in your saddle, a burr in your saddle. Of course, that's from Tony, who's from Kansas. I should know that one since I'm from Kansas too, but okay. Burn your saddle over this casting workshop thing. And he, made it his life mission, even though when he wasn't casting our movies, to shut that down. And
and he did for
and
a while.
he did. He like sent some of those people went to jail, because of the whole, they got disbarred from the casting society because
It
of.
was the most insane thing because I'm like the casting directors that still do it. I was at least smart enough to look at their track records and be like,
Yeah.
do they call in actors?
And-
And if they did, I wanted to meet them.
That's interesting about how did you find out if they called in actors? The only thing I could see when because I did a few of those was to see whether they actually were working, on project, like if they were current. But how did you know whether they actually called in actors?
I would go into the website and I would look like all the websites that were smart, all the acting studios that were smart, would have brag boards on their homepage and be like, so and so just got called in for Castle. So and so just got called in for Castle. So and so just got called in for Castle. Guess how I booked Castle? I mean, I did a casting director workshop and they remembered me and I did a good job and they called me in and I learned so much. Those were the classes I took. I mean, and to Billy's point, like they were classes, they weren't pay to play. And then they were also with prominent people who could give you feedback. So I was a big fan.
Oh, I was too, actually. Yeah.
I loved workshops.
I was it was a little bit weird always to be associated with Billy, who was shutting him down, and everybody was thought that I was anti, and I was like, I don't really, it is what it is, like whatever. Yeah, I mean, Lilley booked Castle. That's all we knew.
And Criminal Mind. I mean, you go down the the projects
list.
that I've booked, and almost all of them, it was from either a casting director workshop or because I would go in the room and they'd be like, "You don't fit. Where are we going to put you?" And then they would just write me in, and it was so fun. So,
all right, Jen. So we're on a soap. How long do we do these soaps before Hallmark starts?
Wait, I have to tell you this.
Okay.
We got back. You did it. We got back around. So when I first moved to LA, I did casting director workshops, which is when we got on our rabbit hole about Billy. And
we love you, Billy DeMota, though, just wherever you are. He
whatever,
retired, unfortunately.
So I don't distract me again. So
And D. I want to shout out to D too.
And I had heard from multiple people. They were like, I started working at one because I couldn't afford the classes, and so I emailed them.
Yeah, they were a little bit tough, like, $40 or something.
They were so expensive, so I said, I can't afford this. But can I intern for you? I have 30 pencils and I'm ready to go. Like you can work me into the ground, just give me free classes. So they did, and so I got to do all this admin stuff. And in the background, like multiple times, casting directors, all sorts of people would say, yeah, the only person that you should really probably never meet are like casting directors for soap operas because you're really pretty. I never thought that I would do them.
Was that the time when you had a burr in your saddle to go, prove
care.
them all wrong and go star on a soap opera?
No, I
Jen, wait. So we didn't have a burr in our saddle about going into being a star, but then smash cut, you're all of a sudden a soap opera star.
Yeah, that was wild.
Isn't that wild? But you didn't. It wasn't like you weren't annoyed that they said you weren't pretty enough to go on a soap opera.
No, I was like, that's fine. I didn't know I was funny, and so once people told me I was funny, I was like, let's do comedy. So.
That's another adorable thing about Jen is that you're just super cool. Like, that would have annoyed me. I would have been like, I'm going to star in a soap opera because, nobody tells me that I'm not good looking enough to be at a soap opera, right? But you're like, pushed into exactly what and you still start on a soap opera. There's the irony right there. Two, yeah. Exactly. I love that. All right, so wait a second. When you're starring in soap operas, is this when Hallmark comes knocking on your door? Was that the transition for you? Like, what was that transition like?
I am so glad you asked this question because I have to give a shout out to A Perfect Storm. So first of all, I did a movie called The Spirit of Christmas, and it was an incredible Christmas movie. It was an indie. Mar Vista did it, and then there was a bidding war between Hallmark Lifetime and Netflix. And so that got Hallmark's attention. And then at the same time, right after I did General Hospital, I did a movie with Danica McKellar. And I get on set and Danica's like, why are you not in Hallmark movies? And it's like, I wasn't a child star. Like, I can't just call them and tell them that I would be suited for their network. And she was like, oh, I'll call them. You should be in Hallmark movies. Which to Danica's credit is so amazing because, at that time before Great American had branched out and we were all just under the Hallmark umbrella, it was so nice because none of the actors were competitive with each other at those networks because there were 140 movies being made every year. And that was kind of the logic was, I can do 4 movies. I can't do all 140. So there was really not a lot of competition. So I just want to give a shout out to Danica McKellar for just being the real McCoy, who's become a really good friend. So it was a perfect storm of they got the attention of that movie. Danica put in a word for me. And at the same time, Penny Perry, who was the casting director over at Hallmark, was a huge Days of Our Lives fan. So,
Penny Perry, actually, she cast our Mercy Streets in 2000.
oh, nice.
Yeah, way
Penny
back
Perry.
in the day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Her and her daughter, super, super sweet. You did that that first Christmas movie. Did it just like so Hallmark picked it up? Did it just take off? Like were the numbers
Oh.
extraordinary that is where Hallmark started to open up their gates to you? Is that the
So
or was
the
it
spirit of
Danica's phone
Christmas-
call?
I don't really know. I think it was a perfect storm of all 3, but the Spirit of Christmas ended up not being Hallmark. Lifetime actually bought it out. They overbid Hallmark. And then it went to Netflix, and then at one point it was on Hallmark. It had a licensing run forever. I'm actually in the process of producing the sequel, and it ended up being the #1 Christmas movie in the world. And to this day, it's like translated into 76 languages. And to this day, a really reputable magazine ranked it still as #1 Lifetime movie of all time.
The Spirit of Christmas.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the irony of that too, though. You think about that. The Spirit of Christmas. What's the Spirit of Christmas? It's Jesus Christ,
Jesus?
right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's Jen's middle name. That's pretty cool. So wait, how do you go about? You're trying to make the sequel of this. How are we doing this? Is like who,
actually,
do you have?
meeting
Do you know
with
who holds the rights to the Spirit of Christmas besides God?
Yes, Mar Vista still does, but I mean the sequel's been written and it's outstanding. So
That's cool.
I hope I can get it done.
All right, so we do all of these. Like, how many Hallmark movies did you do? Because you've been in a lot. Now you're like you were the staple of Hallmark on one of their flagship
I
players.
was so grateful for that. I honestly don't know,
know?
how many movies I've done with them, but it was a bunch. And then because I did so many movies with them, when Bill Abbott started his own network, he asked me to go with him. So I did Great American for a while, and I still have a Great American Christmas movie coming out. It's called A Little Women Christmas, and that comes out on Great American.
Are we still
Family
doing the Great American Christmas movies and or some other movies?
I mean, yeah, I'm not under exclusivity contract to them anymore, but we have a great relationship. I mean, I try, David, it's like I've known you for, we've decided 1,000 years. And I try not to burn my bridges, just because I'm not exclusive anymore doesn't mean that there's any beef or anything like that. So
Yeah.
I love them. I hope that they still continue to employ me. I'm getting a lot back into producing though, and really focusing on that. And so, I'm kind of willing and open to work anywhere that will present a good script to me or wants to work with me. So, yeah.
Yeah, and for all those folks out there, if Great American is like ringing a bell, but you can't quite put your finger on it, well, Great American and PureFlix merged, and then so Bill's been running PureFlix the last about a year and a half now, so as well as the Great American channel. Which is super cool. So what can we talk about that's coming out?
I have a company launching called Raise the Reel. It's a groundbreaking crowdfunding platform where fans can actually be in the movies that they love. And independent filmmakers can finance their films with no strings attached and risk-free. So no equity and no ROI. So I've created that on November.
Are we raising
15th.
money for that? What are we doing with that? Who's like funding these things?
It's a crowdfunding platform.
Oh, crowdfunding platform. Very cool. Wow.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super cool. So fans are going to be really pumped about that. And then also whenever they support a movie, they also get entered to win dream vacation packages and things like that. So
Where do
that
they go to
launches
find out about this? RaiseTheReel.com or
raisethereel.com.
is it REEL?
Yes, real like a movie. Raise the REEL.
It'll go up on the screen. Yeah, too.
REEL.com.
Which
Raise
is
the
another
Reel.
reason why everybody should go on and watch these things because you're going to want to,
Yeah,
put
they
this
can be
your
in my next
tab line.
Christmas movie.
Exactly.
Then I have Operation Mistletoe is a Christmas movie that I have. I'm going to be doing an Expedia celebrity cruise with me, Marcus Rosner, and Jesse Hutch.
Wow. Hold on a second. Now, does your husband get to go to the Bahamas as well? Or your kids?
He's a
or
homebody. He's like, no, thank you. That sounds
wow.
awful. Yeah,
Is
so
this your little break from your kids? Like mom needs a day off, mom needs a cruise off or whatever, like, mom's night out. Like we did mom's night out, right? So this is like mom's Bahamas trip out.
Mom's cruise out. Yeah. So doing that. And then I'm producing and starring in Holiday Heart, so you can help fund it and be part of the movie from raisethereal.com. I've got 2 books coming out in 2025. One is a devotional called Wake Up Your Faith, Daily Encounters with Jesus. That comes out in November of 2025. And I also have a book called So You Want to Be a Foster Parent, Everything You Wanted to Know About Foster Parenting, but You Were Too Afraid to Ask, with Dr. John DeGarmo. That comes out next year. And then I just have a bunch of producing projects in the pipeline.
They're giving me a flash here, so I got like a minute and a half left. So let me just ask you this. In the midst of all of that, which, I mean, you're getting an applause, whether you can hear it or not, the applause is going off. Now, okay. Quiet down, everybody.
Go, David.
Do we ever wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, out of the 60 movies that I've done and all the books and now I'm raising children and everything, does Jen Lilley ever hit a wall that she goes, oh my gosh, I have to recharge? Or do you save the recharge for the Bahamas cruise?
For sure. I do recharge. Like even this morning, I was 7 hours trying to create an Excel sheet that just kept triggering, and it was a whole thing. I had 4 customer service reps for 7 hours trying to figure something out. And I literally was like, I got in the shower to at least wash my mom hair for this podcast. And I was like, Holy Spirit, activate. Like, I need you, or we're not, like, I can't do this. Why am I launching this company, Lord? Why did you give me this idea? So yeah.
And what do we find at the very end of it, right? This is what do you find as when you say Holy Spirit activate? Like it's like a comic book, Twin Powers, and then all of a sudden, do you feel like you get immediate inspiration from that, or does Jen Lilley ever go through a day that's tough and she's not as perky and happy and charming?
I for sure go through days. We all go through days, but I think just knowing that the Holy Spirit's with you is the difference. I genuinely, like, not as a judgmental thing, I literally mean, I genuinely do not know how people do life without Holy Spirit.
Well, Jen Lilley, I appreciate you. Ed, thank you very much for hanging out with us on this lovely, whatever day this is. Did you get your Excel sheet done, though? I have to ask that really quick.
I did. I was so proud. Mm-hmm.
That's hilarious. All right, Jen, thank you again for being here. Wonderful to see you, and I hope I get to work with you again before too long in the midst of your super busy schedule. Make it a great day, Jen. See ya. And Jen Lilley actually did, I forgot to mention this, she came back to reprise her role as the wife of Josh McManus in the series Revelation Road. That's the last time I worked with her. Still waiting to find out where that show gets picked up at. Revelation Road, the series. We're out to several networks, so that's kind of exciting. And then we'll get to see Jen Lilley in one of ours. So, all right, guys, God bless you. Make it a great day, and I will see you next time, and I hope you enjoy the show. And as always, dare to dream.